Have you ever felt that sharp tightening in your chest when you realized people weren't truly listening to you, they were only looking at you? Scanning your worn-out shoes, your slightly wrinkled shirt, your sleep-deprived face, and in that instant, they decided which social tier you belong to. You've seen that gaze before, a gaze that measures status, not competence, a gaze that judges you as poor, long before it judges whether you are capable. That moment exposes a cold truth. Human beings define you by appearance long before they define you by essence. They don't react to who you are, they react to the signals you emit. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago when he wrote in, "The princemen in general judge more by the eye than by the hand. For everyone can see, but few can feel. But what you see is only the visible tip of the iceberg. The real consequences of looking poor are not loud, not immediate. They are silent, subtle, and often recognized only when the damage is irreversible. It doesn't merely strip away what should have belonged to you, it recalibrates how others value you. And more dangerously, how you value yourself. And that is why you cannot walk away from this video, because I will help you understand why. When you appear to be poor, everything seems to work against you. More importantly, I will help you learn how to rebuild your image, not to pretend to be wealthy, but to ensure that no one ever dares to look down on you simply because of your appearance. 1. First impressions decide your fate. Machiavelli observed human nature with the cold eyes of someone who understood power's anatomy too well. And in The Prince, he noted that people judge with their eyes long before they judge with their intellect, a truth so deceptively simple, yet powerful enough to govern the entire social world. Because what they see in those first few seconds does not merely shape how they treat you. It determines the road you will be forced to walk for years afterward, and you may resist it. You may dislike it, but you cannot escape this law, because it does not belong to culture or to era, it belongs to instinct. When you walk into a room, people are not getting to know you. They are scanning you with a primal threat detection system programmed to identify danger, power, benefit, and risk. And in that instant, every piece of data they need is already logged: your posture, your gaze, your gait, the texture of your voice, the confidence or insecurity leaking through microscopic details. And from that, a conclusion is formed so quickly that you don't even notice you've already been assigned a position in their internal hierarchy. The irony is that they believe they are observing you, when in reality they are merely reacting through thin slicing, a cognitive mechanism that forces humans to draw conclusions before they even understand they are doing so. And once that first imprint is set, it cements their perception of you, turning every future attempt you make into an uphill battle against their initial classification. This does not happen only among ordinary people. It governed the behavior of history's most powerful figures. Julius Caesar understood the brutality of first impressions so deeply that upon returning to Rome after conquering Gaul, he deliberately transformed his arrival into a spectacle: elite soldiers, gleaming armor, banners slicing through the wind, thunderous cheers, everything curated to permanently carve into the Roman psyche the image of a man who could not be challenged. Because Caesar knew that even greatness requires a form powerful enough to look like greatness, Napoleon was no different. He was not just a strategic genius, but a master of image, always appearing in immaculate uniform, with a posture of unbreakable resolve and a gaze that made soldiers believe they were following a man born for victory. and that belief, crafted in seconds, was enough to make them die for him. So, what about you? If titans of history had to manipulate first impressions to anchor their power, how can you, someone trying to rise in a competitive world, afford to treat lightly what they regarded as a non-negotiable weapon in modern life? This law has not disappeared. It has become more sophisticated. A recruiter judges you within the first 5 seconds of an interview, before hearing a word from you. A negotiating partner evaluates your confidence before reading the documents you brought. Society scans the way you dress, walk, and speak to assign you a rank within a hierarchy they maintain unconsciously. You've seen this countless times. A confident mediocrity is trusted more than a gifted but anxious person. Someone neatly dressed receives better treatment than someone sloppy. A person with commanding presence is respected even when silent. That is not random unfairness, it is the absolute victory of first impressions. A gravitational force that decides who gets the door opened and who gets it shut, who receives opportunity and who is quietly excluded. And if you tell yourself that people will eventually see the real me, you are lying to yourself, because humans would rather cling to a wrong first impression than admit they misjudged someone, since revising their judgment requires admitting their own error, and their ego refuses that correction. The animal instinct still lives within us. It helps a predator identify prey by posture or breath alone. And modern humans, despite clothing, money, and technology, have never escaped that primal acuity. They detect weakness from afar. They sense poverty. They feel instability. And they choose to side with whatever appears strong, even if its core is hollow. This strikes directly at your ego, doesn't it? Because the truth you don't want to face is this: you're not underestimated because you lack ability. You're underestimated because you do not control the first impression. And that is why Machiavelli laid the foundation for a truth as ruthless as it is accurate. It does not matter who you are. It matters who they perceive you to be. In such a world, you have no right to look poor, no right to look weak, no right to appear like someone who cannot command their own destiny. Because the first impression does not merely create your image, it creates the ceiling of your entire life. And if your weakness is visible before your strength is, you will enter every battle already losing. It is not strength that determines the first impression. It is the first impression that determines who is allowed to show their strength. 2. Opportunity filtering. There is a truth most people refuse to confront. Even though it silently governs every interaction in life, the world does not give opportunities to the most capable, but to those who look like the safest investment. The human brain is dominated by risk avoidance bias, a mechanism that pushes people away from anything that might pull them down. And the moment your appearance emits signals of poverty, instability, or lack of control, they classify you as a liability, a potential burden, and withdraw instantly as a survival reflex, long before you get the chance to say a word. You can see the same principle in nature within a wolf pack. Rank is not determined by the loudest growl, but by microscopic signals on the body: a slightly slower step, a head lowered half an inch, a wound not fully healed. Your position shifts immediately. You don't need to lose a fight. You only need to look like you're weakening, and the pack will remove you from anything that matters. Humans are more civilized than wolves, but their instincts are hardly different. A person who looks poor in their eyes, in their gait, in their voice or aura, is sending precisely the signal that social instinct labels as risk. And society, through its self-protective machinery, filters them out from valuable opportunities in the coldest, most silent ways. You've probably felt this before walking into an interview and sensing they dismissed you the moment their eyes drifted down to your shoes, or presenting a sharp idea only to receive a gaze that quietly says, "Looking at you, I don't believe you can execute this." These moments are quiet, almost invisible, but they cut like a silent verdict, based not on what you did, but on what you allowed them to see. What's frightening is that this rule applies even to people who later became icons. Oprah Winfrey was rejected from her first television job because she didn't have the right look. J.K. Rowling wasn't doubted for poor writing, but because the image of a poor single mother made publishers question her staying power. Howard Schultz, founder of Starbucks, was turned away by 17 investors simply because he did not look like a visionary founder. They were not rejected for lacking value, they were rejected because their appearance signaled risk. Machiavelli warned that humans avoid what they fear long before they reach for what they desire. And that is why, in a world governed far more by fear than by logic, looking poor doesn't merely make people underestimate you, it makes them perceive you as a threat. And in the logic of social instinct, threats are always the first to be excluded. 3. Predator psychology. If you are willing to stare directly into the bruised core of your ego, you will understand why looking poor doesn't just diminish your perceived value, it marks you as a target for others to test their dominance. In every social encounter, people classify you not through reason, but through primal instinct, who can inflict damage and who cannot, who is predator and who is prey. And their eyes decide which category you fall into long before you utter your first sentence. Observe closely, and you'll see this instinct exposed in the most ordinary moments, when someone pushes you just a little to test whether you react. When they raise their voice, interrupt you, shift their tone, or speak with condescension to measure whether you possess enough internal force to make them reconsider. When you don't, it activates in them an ancient region of instinct, the predator's zone, the part that convinces them you will not push back, that you are unguarded terrain, that you are a safe choice for them to assert their status. This is also why scenes in nature feel unsettling when viewed with human eyes. When a lion chooses its prey, it doesn't pick the strongest gazelle, nor does it charge the dominant males capable of retaliation. It watches slowly, patiently, observing the one that drifts just slightly from the herd, breathes just a bit heavier, falls just a fraction out of rhythm. And the most terrifying element is not the lion's strength, but the cold precision of the moment it detects weakness, because once that moment appears, the hunt is over before it begins. Humans do not run on 4 legs or hide in tall grass, but the instinct to read weakness remains intact. It shows up in the workplace when a colleague speaks to you in a tone they would never dare to use with someone who commands fear. It appears in relationships when someone pushes you lower the moment they sense you need them more than they need you. It appears in society when people cut in front of you, exploit you, or dismiss your boundaries because your demeanor signals you won't resist. And the most painful truth is this: you, too, have treated others this way, not out of malice, but because your instinct smelled weakness before your conscious mind understood what it was doing. These memories have certainly happened to you the moment someone spoke to you, as if you lacked the strength to respond. The times you were dumped work, dismissed, overlooked, not because you lacked ability, but because the way you appeared convinced them you would not fight back. And that moment, The moment you are placed into the prey category usually happens in silence, in a glance, in a breath, in some ungoverned energy you emitted without realizing it. What makes this truth brutal is that it reinforces a Machiavellian principle modern society pretends does not exist. Humans respect what can hurt them and disregard what cannot retaliate. And that principle is exactly why looking poor becomes an open invitation to the predator instinct in others, making them believe they can push you to your limits without consequence, because you emit no signal strong enough to make them halt. And here is the truth you don't want to hear, but must hear if people underestimate you, dismiss you, or push you downward. It is not because they are stronger than you, it is because you have appeared as someone who will not resist. In the world of instinct, the loser is not the weakest, it is the one who exposes weakness first. Machiavelli once observed that human beings react to signals faster than they react to logic. A single unguarded look is enough to close a door that should have been yours. Yet this very truth reveals the only opening in this entire game. You cannot become wealthy overnight, but you can change the signals the world receives from you the moment you step outside this threshold. And from here, 3 strategies will form the foundation through which you control how others see you before they decide your fate. Strategy 1. Clean your visual signals. Of all the things you can do to change the way the world sees you, the first and most immediately within your control is cleansing the visual signals you emit. People believe they judge one another through words, intellect, or behavior. But most impressions are formed from details so small you barely notice them: how the collar sits on your shoulders, the smoothness of the sleeves, the neatness of your hair, or the cleanliness of the shoes you assume no one pays attention to. But the human brain notices, and it notices in the very first second. In psychology, this phenomenon is known as the cleanliness heuristic, a cognitive bias through which people associate cleanliness with competence, discipline, and self-command, while associating sloppiness with instability, lack of control, and poor life management. You do not need to be attractive. You do not need designer clothes. You do not need to project luxury. You only need to appear as someone who takes care of the smallest things within their control, and that alone unconsciously convinces others that you can also manage things far larger. You can see this most clearly in Barack Obama. He never dressed extravagantly, yet every appearance, often in the same 2 or 3 suits, was crisp, straight, fitted, and clean, as if cut from his own self-discipline. People did not see brand names. They saw a man who understood the architecture of his own image, and that is the true signal of leadership. You felt this in your own life as well. Some people enter a room and you immediately sense that they are collected without them speaking, gesturing, or displaying anything. That is the power of small signals: clean shirt, polished shoes, neat hair, a faint scent, a calm demeanor. And then there are others: wrinkled clothes, worn shoes, disheveled hair, a fatigued posture, and you instantly feel they are struggling, even if they might be wealthier than you. Appearance does not tell the full truth, but it is always the first thing others use to decide what matters. Here is not money, but care. You may have very little, yet what you keep should be refined, clean, and fitted. A cheap but well-pressed shirt beats an expensive one that's wrinkled. An ordinary pair of shoes cleaned every night is more trustworthy than a luxury pair covered in dust. And a simple outfit worn neatly radiates more control than any extravagant one worn carelessly. This strategy is not meant to make you look rich, but to ensure you do not sabotage yourself through the wrong signals: a pressed shirt, clean shoes, a subtle scent that creates distance. These small details do not change who you are, but they change how others open the doors they are guarding. Machiavelli would call this the art of defending before you fight. You do not win by appearance, but you can lose because of it, and lose quickly. Strategy 2. Build a valuable aura. Some people do not boast, do not raise their voice, do not flaunt anything yet when they enter a room. The atmosphere shifts ever so slightly, growing slower, deeper. People do not know who they are, but instinct whispers, "This person has weight." Keanu Reeves is this type of person: quiet, unpretentious, yet always wrapped in a stillness that forces others to adjust themselves. Aura, in truth, is not a gift. It is the sum of several very small elements: the way you walk, the rhythm of your breathing, the way you look at others, the way you respond, the way you remain calm when provoked. These are the signals people use to decide whether you are a person of value or a person easily disregarded. Your walk tells the story before you open your mouth. Walking slowly is not about acting powerful. It is a signal that nothing around you drags you. In social psychology, slow walkers are perceived as people with choice because speed is a marker of status. Your voice works the same way. You do not need to strain to lower your pitch. You only need to breathe deeper before speaking. Slow your cadence by half a beat, and let your words fall rather than burst forward. Humans trust calm voices more than fast, high ones, because calmness signals self-control, and self-control inspires confidence, even in the absence of credentials. But the most important element is the ability to not react immediately. A person loses their aura the moment they rush to answer, to explain, to defend, to justify. A brief pause before speaking not only makes you sound heavier, but signals to others that you cannot be pulled into their frame. Reactive people are always in the lower position. Those who respond slowly, even slightly, always control the tempo. You can test this in daily life, in meetings, during tense conversations, or when someone irritates you. Hold silence for 1 second before responding. You will feel the air change. The other person softens, slows down, adjusts their tone, because they sense you are not someone easily pulled into defense. In Machiavellian terms, a valuable aura simply means this: do not let others see the world dragging you. You do not need to be cold, dangerous, or theatrical. You only need to hold your own rhythm. When you walk a little slower, speak a little deeper, respond a little later, you emit the signal of someone who carries weight, and the world always behaves differently toward those who carry weight. Strategy 3. Send the signal of someone who has options. In nature, there is an image both beautiful and brutal: the eagle. It never dives into flocks, never competes for scraps, never flies low along crowded paths. It always chooses the high vantage point, observing everything from a distance, and only descends when it chooses to. Not because it is arrogant, but because apex predators emit a singular signal: I am not the one who must fight for position, because I have options. That posture, that distance, makes the entire sky see it differently. Humans are no different. Those who look wealthy, look valuable, look worth investing in, share one unmistakable trait. They radiate the energy of someone who chooses, not someone who waits to be chosen. And what creates that energy is not money, but three incredibly small yet immensely powerful signals. The first signal: not being rushed. People without options are always in a hurry, hurrying to respond, to show up, to prove themselves, to convince others they are good enough. In contrast, those with options always hold a beat, not slow, but unshaken. When you are not rushed, people immediately sense that you are not the type who grasps at any opportunity out of fear. There will be no others. And that signal is more powerful than any expensive item you could wear. The second signal: not trying to prove yourself. People with weak energy constantly explain themselves, listing achievements, over-justifying, showing desperation to be seen as worthy. But those with options behave differently. They don't need to say, "I'm good." Their steadiness in speech, their certainty in the gaze, speaks louder. And the human mind assumes if you are not trying to prove anything, perhaps you truly possess something that doesn't require display. The third signal: not seeking validation. This is what people who look poor often do. Unintentionally, they search for nods, for confirming eyes, for small compliments to feel okay. Yet in relationships, workplaces, negotiations, and dating, the one who seeks validation is always the one beneath. People with options don't wait for others to validate them. They enter conversations without striving to dominate, without trying to be the center, without trying to please, and precisely because of that, others want to listen to them more. These three signals, combined, create the very principle Machiavelli often implied: those with true power are the ones who make others wonder what they will choose next. You do not need to act superior, only not desperate. You do not need to appear cold, only stop clinging to every approving glance. You do not need to flaunt strength, only show that you are not obligated to stay in any place that does not serve you. When you emit the energy of someone with options, every interaction around you changes in subtle but unmistakable ways. People speak to you with less urgency. They pay more attention to your silences. They prefer to keep you rather than push you away, because in human eyes, as in the eyes of the eagle, position always belongs to the one who shows they can leave at any moment. This is the deepest meaning of never looking poor, when you no longer emit the signal of someone waiting to be chosen, but the signal of someone who knows they have the power to choose. 7. The poor are not allowed to make mistakes. When poverty turns small errors into major offenses, this society operates through an extraordinarily ruthless visual filter, where your appearance determines the degree of tolerance that others are willing to extend to you. Have you ever wondered why, when the exact same mistake of arriving late to a meeting happens in New York or LA, a man stepping out of a luxury car only needs to offer a simple apology? Traffic downtown was terrible, and his boss and colleagues laugh it off and move on, while another man climbing out of an old, rusty, worn-out car, or rushing up from a subway station, is immediately labeled as undisciplined and incapable of managing his time, true to Machiavelli's pragmatic philosophy. Most people in society judge a book by its cover. When you present yourself with the appearance of poverty, you unknowingly strip yourself of the right to make mistakes. American society is highly practical. People will automatically assume that your mistake is not the result of circumstances, but rather a reflection of your careless nature and lack of competence. This prejudice turns a minor oversight into a major conviction, forcing a man into a constant defensive position, because all it takes is one misstep for the entire system to rush in and pass judgment. From a psychological perspective, the appearance of poverty triggers the crowd's unspoken sense of superiority, making people more likely to exaggerate your mistakes in order to reinforce their belief that he's a failure because he deserves to be. Seeing through this harsh reality is not meant to make you resent the world, but to awaken the strength of character of a true man. Machiavelli once taught that we cannot change the nature of the world, but we can absolutely master the game by understanding its rules. What is the greatest lesson here when you know you are already at a visual disadvantage? You cannot afford to be careless. Turn society's harsh judgment into iron discipline to forge yourself into a stronger man. In the workplace or in any encounter in America, absolute punctuality, a neat and clean appearance, and professionalism in every smallest action are the strongest shield you can have to protect yourself. Walk with confidence, conduct yourself with courtesy, and make sure your words are always matched by your actions. It is precisely the invisible presence created by self-control and discipline that will gradually compensate for any outward material shortcomings. When you gain complete control over your own behavior, leaving others unable to find a single opening to criticize or blame you, you have already begun to shift the balance. The harshness of others unintentionally becomes a furnace that tempers your spirit, allowing you to build quiet inner strength and prepare for the day when you step into the light, transforming every disadvantage you face today into the launching pad for lasting success tomorrow. 8. Pretend to be poor to stay hidden. Turn other people's contempt into the weapon that reverses the game. I understand that once you realize the heavy price of allowing your poverty to show, you will see that this world operates through the traps of shallow prejudice. But a man who thinks like Machiavelli will not choose to strain himself pretending to be wealthy. Instead, he chooses to turn other people's underestimation into the ultimate strategic weapon. Human nature is inherently arrogant. When people see someone who appears to be of lower status, crowd psychology automatically lowers its guard, stops being cautious, and views that person as harmless. Machiavelli once emphasized that the one who masters disguise is the one who controls the game, and accepting that others look down on you is the perfect camouflage for concealing your fangs. In America's intensely competitive society, drawing too much attention to yourself before you possess sufficient strength only makes you a target for predators. On the other hand, when you deliberately pretend to be poor, you gain the ultimate privilege, the freedom to quietly observe the true nature of everyone around you without attracting anyone's attention. The practical lesson for you is to learn patience, swallow your pride, and focus all of your energy on quietly building your financial resources and your core capabilities. Let them indulge in their temporary sense of superiority while you continue moving forward in silence. By the time your opponents recognize your true strength, the outcome will already have been decided, and the contempt they once had for you will have officially become the very trap that buries them. Conclusion: this entire video, from the 5 reasons why you should never allow yourself to look poor to the 3 strategies for changing the way the world sees you, is not really about appearance or demeanor alone. It is about a deeper, more fundamental principle, a rule that Machiavelli recognized centuries ago. Life does not reward those who are deserving. It rewards those who know how to shape the way they are perceived What you have just learned is not a collection of tricks, but the language of perception, and most importantly, this video does not teach you how to pretend to be rich. It teaches you how to keep your outward appearance from undermining your own destiny. When you change the signals you project, you change perception. When you change perception, you change the way other people treat you. And when you change that, you change the entire trajectory of your life. If this video has made you reflect on yourself and gain a clearer understanding of how the world truly works, leave a like to mark the first step of your transformation. Share it with someone you know who is being misjudged simply because of their appearance. And if you want to continue stepping into a deeper level of awareness, where you understand the rules of power instead of being controlled by them, subscribe. Not for me, but to remind yourself that you are choosing to stand on the stronger side of life